Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball today on your Wednesday. Florida State men's and women's basketball both have 5 games in the books to start their 2024-25 season. Joined here on the Osceola's YouTube as well as Facebook, Twitter, social media channels, senior writer Kurt Weiler. We also have Osceola writer Justin Hood, Florida State senior, helping us out. He's done a great job covering soccer and some basketball for us. We welcome Justin for his Seminole Sidelines debut. Thanks for jumping in here, Justin.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun interning with y'all this semester, and it's only 4 weeks left, but I'm glad I finally got to be on here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. We've been talking about doing these basketball podcasts for a little while, and I think it's a good time. We're 5 games in for both of these teams. And so maybe let's start a little bit with Hofstra before we kind of get into the big picture stuff with these guys. I think Florida State taking care of business against a team that we think in Hofstra might be one of the best teams in that conference in the CAA, could be a potential NCAA tournament team by the time March comes around. I know they're not highly regarded by Ken Palm just yet, but they were 4-0 coming in. Hofstra had taken care of some business, coached by an NBA guy in Speedy Claxton. Kurt, you covered the game Tuesday night for the Osceola. Just kind of your big picture thoughts specific to the win over Hofstra.
Yeah, it was, I think, an encouraging bounce back after the kind of that first setback against Florida. I mean, I think that's a Hofstra team that in this week's AP poll was receiving votes for whatever that's worth. I mean, they'd beaten Seton Hall, they'd beaten UMass. They didn't have like a hugely impressive win, but they were 4-0, and that was something Florida State couldn't say going into that game. And I think they did a good job. I mean, Hofstra went on a nice little run to cut it to 2 pretty early in the second half, and then Florida State kind of buried them, and they won a game. I mean, they were favored by 9. They won by 18. And that, I mean, when you're looking at the net, the margin of victory matters. So beating, I think, a potential tournament team by that significant a margin is encouraging for your metrics. It's the kind of stuff you need to do if you want to be an NIT, maybe even NCAA tournament bubble team.
Yeah, and Florida State's schedule, we should say non-conference, for those of you who are maybe still in football mode, maybe you're in recruiting mode, haven't fully taken that dive into basketball yet. This basketball non-conference schedule is relatively soft from the metric standpoint. You're seeing a lot of sub 100 and the Ken Palm type of opponents. But that's also by design. Florida State with 9 newcomers for this roster, whether that's portal, JUCO, high school. But Justin, just again taking care of business against Hofstra. Your thoughts watching that Tuesday night game?
Well, after the Florida one, they really needed to come out and beat somebody because, I mean, they had their chances against Florida, but this was a little bit different. Like Kurt said, Hofstra has been kind of a pain, for some teams. In the past, they've made the tournament, and I knew it wasn't going to be an easy win, but, I mean, they did what they needed to do. And I think Leonard, after the second game, he said, we'll see how this team is after the 5th game and see like how they gel and everything. And we have some good pieces around it. Justin Thomas and Jerry Ding are starting to kind of get acclimated a little bit more, I think, to the system, and especially Justin Thomas. He has his moments where he looks like a basketball player. He is a good shooter. So I think we're still getting integrated together. But being eventually, like each game that happens, we're going to get more cohesive, I think, because there are a lot of new pieces, a lot of new freshmen, a lot of new transfers. There's only 3 guys back from last year's team. So, well, 4 if you count Waka. But it's kind of like it's still early. So I think if this team just kind of stays where they're at, I think they'll keep improving. But the shooting, they need to, I think, take a little bit more shots. Looking at the stat sheet for the last couple of games, they're only getting up, I think, 60 or 70 shots a game, I think. And they need to just – sometimes I think the ball doesn't move around as quick as it should, and they don't get enough shots up. But I think with time, this team will improve, and I think it's still early, but they have room for improvement.
As Leonard Hamilton likes to say, the cake is still in the oven.
Yeah, yeah, it's still
the cake is in the oven. And we can talk about a team that's won a game 79-61. So when you're kind of analyzing 18-point wins, ain't that bad of a discussion when we're talking about the Florida State men's basketball team. Obviously, they will go neutral site up to Connecticut, playing Friday against Temple 5 o'clock, and then UMass on Sunday. So let's kind of go big picture. Honestly, people were asking me in the preseason, what do you think about this men's basketball team? And we had seen, I think, one practice, a little bit of the exhibitions. And I thought, well, Jameer Watkins, good to have him back. Beyond that, lots of question marks. We'll see, is Taylor Bowen capable of being a Batman, a Robin to the Batman type of guy? How do the new pieces fit? I think we had maybe more question marks across the roster than really any answers. Big picture, Kurt, have you seen sort of roles maybe assigned to certain guys, or feel better about a transfer than you did, say, going into the start of the exhibition schedule even?
I mean, I think I feel better about quite a few of the newcomers, be they transfers or be they freshmen. I think, I mean, you talked about Justin Thomas. I think he is we finally got clarity last night after the game from him that he was hurt last year. It's why he didn't play at UTSA. I don't think we'd heard that. It really wasn't much publicized about that. It was kind of hard to get information about what exactly had happened there. He has, for missing an entire season, bounced back incredibly well. I think he's, from day one of the better defenders on the team. I think had 4 steals in that game last night. Very active and brings the perimeter shooting too, that I think this team needs more guys capable of doing that. I think I had 7 or 8 guys who hit a 3 last night, which spreading out that much is significant. I think the same goes for Gary Dang, who I think Ham might say is the best 3-point shooter on the team possibly. And that's impressive when you look at his frame, his long arms. I mean, he is not by any means a guard. He's a true forward, one of the more intimidating inside presences. So when he can provide the outside shooting, I think that's quite encouraging. I mean, when you look at the team as a whole, the big picture, this team looks more like, I mean, they're still playing that tempo. They haven't gone back to the days where you're racing to score 50 points, but the defensive intensity is more like those teams where it was a race to 50 points. I mean, they're getting in pass lanes. They're creating deflections. I think they have double-digit steals in 4 of their first 5 games. I kind of, if this is Leonard Hamilton's last team, in that way, it definitely channels a team that has historically his good teams have been, where they're disruptive and long at the defensive end.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think this team has the requisite desire, energy. I think years ago, Hamilton had a heart and hustle as his motto. And I can't remember how many years back that was. This team feels like it's got heart and hustle, and we like just that all-out energy level. Justin, to you, I mean, we talked about a lot of different guys there, but any freshmen, Malik Ewan, just guys that you weren't sure about, but now after, say, the exhibitions, 5 games, you start to think, okay, that guy is part of the pieces of the puzzle to success for this team.
Daquan Davis, for sure. He's definitely a guy he was the highest rated recruit, I think, that we have in this class. And he can really do whatever he wants to. I mean, he's a good combo guard. He can get in the lane, and he can shoot at a decent clip. But I think he's a lot further than any of the other freshmen, because I haven't really seen the other ones play. Christian plays here and there, and I don't know how to pronounce the guy from Greece's name, so I'm not going to butcher that. But he's played a little bit too, but I'm very rare. I mean, it's so little that I don't know what he's going to really do. But definitely Daquan Davis, that guy has got a bright future here. He can definitely crack the 2 deep, I'm pretty sure, as a backup to Chandler Jackson. But he can also play the 2. I mean, you can kind of move him around right now, and I think that's what Leonard's kind of trying to do right now. It's just kind of figure out where Daquan can fit into this rotation and everything, because I think once he figures it out, he could be a problem, because he can get into the lane pretty easily, and he's got some moves. He looks the part, So I think given some time, we'll definitely get a better idea of who he is going forward.
And I think we've watched enough Florida State basketball through the years. We know that Leonard Hamilton is cautious about how he uses his freshman point guards in particular. It's not a role that he likes to put a lot of minutes or a lot of weight on their shoulders until he can see what they can do. I think he knows Daquan's got to be that kind of guy day one, games 1 through 5, because it's only going to get better, over the course of the schedule. I'm thinking about strengths that we've seen through 5 games, and I've got a couple in mind, but I want to defer to you guys first. I'll give Justin the first round draft pick. If you're going with one strength, that you can walk into the gym that night and it feels pretty good. You can lean on this player or this aspect of the basketball team to give you a shot to win the game. Justin, what are you going with?
Taylor Bowen he's got a lot of potential, and he can really disrupt a lot of areas on the defense. He can block shots, he can get rebounds, he can get steals. He's supremely athletic. He can get down the court easy, he can run, he can dunk, and he can do a lot of stuff that changes the game. He's kind of like, I'm not comparing him, but he's kind of like Giannis. He can kind of move him around in a lot of different areas, and he can run up and down the court. But I think it's up to him, really. I mean, he can definitely get to that point, I think, this year as he keeps getting better and better. But yeah, definitely Taylor Bowen would be the guy I would go with.
I didn't expect Taylor to take this kind of step forward from year 1 to year 2. He's gotten the minutes, but he's made the most of those minutes. Kurt, same question to you. What has kind of stood out to you as far as a strength, a player, or an aspect of the team?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor is a great answer there. I think I was talking with somebody. I'll give my own. I'm not going to just totally copy that. I was talking to someone for a Florida State angle. I think Okaro White was at last night's game. And I think, Bob, that is a Florida State name who I think you can see some Taylor Bowen in Okaro White. Maybe hopefully avoid some of his love for getting in foul trouble early in games, especially with how Ham views playing players with 2 fouls. But I think that is kind of a blueprint that Ham can show to Taylor. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of it defaults back to Jameer Watkins, right? I think we've been pleased with the complementary pieces around Jameer, but I think we knew Jameer was going to be the nucleus of the team, was going to be the leading scorer, was going to be the leading shooter. The leading rebounder a lot of nights. He was both of those things last season, and I think that is definitely still going to be the case. And I think you've an encouraging bounce back. He has played well and had a pretty rough free throw night, which is surprising for him. I think he hit like 80% last year. It's a rough free throw night in that Florida game, but I thought bounced back nicely. I think he was 5 of 5 last night, and the team as a whole was great in that respect too. That's how you bury teams like that. That's how you don't let them hang around. But yeah, I think another one. You talked about Daquan. I think an interesting thing with Daquan, when you look at that Florida game, so much of that run where Florida State, they were not in it really. They were kind of hanging around, but not able to cut all the way back. When they finally cut it to 4, that was because of Daquan. For that to be his first game at that level, and that's kind of that is what he's performing in kind of his first game against a power conference opponent, I think is very encouraging about what he can do right away, which we didn't know what you were going to get right away.
Yeah, good answers. I think Taylor Bowen will be pretty high up on my list. Obviously, having Jameer Watkins gives you that kind of alpha dog that you think he can give you points on any given possession if he drives to the rim. I don't think we've seen enough consistency in that 3-point shot. I know he's working on it. He's trying, but it's not confident. It's not looking good consistently. I think the one thing that I'm happy to see is the defense. I won't say the defense as the whole looks better, but the aggressiveness to produce steals, to frustrate opponents, forcing turnovers, getting blocked shots. It looks a lot better. This is a more fun team to watch. That defensive intensity that Leonard Hamilton loves. And honestly, I didn't know if it was going to happen with 9 newcomers, just throwing them out there and let's see how it looks. It looks a lot better to me defensively than I've really expected. That's not to say it's looked pretty. I think, Justin, we were talking before the show. It has not looked great as far as guys finding those open lanes, and the perimeter defense can still improve in a lot of ways. But it does look much, much better. Let's move to areas of improvement. Again, we're talking about a 4-1 team, but it's nice to have this discussion about where can this Seminole team really make modest strides toward improvement. I've got a couple areas in mind, but I'll go back to Justin again. Thoughts about where you think the Seminoles can make steps through this non-conference schedule and really be competitive against the ACC?
Well, they have to be good inside, and I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing this year. Malik Ewing looks to be like a bigger, stronger, knows what he's doing than the previous centers, big men we've had in like the last couple of years. I think he's still making mistakes, I think, but he's figuring it out, and he's got some moves, and he's a little bit bigger. He can get rebounds, and I think that's an improvement from last year. Other than that, I mean, it just kind of goes back to the defense. We've really improved, I think, on the defensive rebounding standpoint, and a little bit more offensive rebounding as well, because last year we would get kind of eaten alive on the boards some nights. But this time I can see us getting a little bit more tip balls, a little bit more. I mean, it's just like Leonard's teams in the past. They're a little bit more active and trying to get rebounds a little bit more this year. So that's about the only thing I can really see improvement on right now is kind of inside. Everything else on the outside kind of looks the same, but on the inside I can definitely see an improvement.
Okay, Kurt, what you got?
I think similarly, just in terms of, I think that Florida game is as great as they've looked really in the other 4 games, and that Florida game showed the challenges that are going to be presented by, a high major team, a ranked team, like quite a few of the teams they're probably going to see in ACC play. The stretch where Florida won that game, where they went on that run, their ball movement was really bothering Florida State defensively. I think Florida State's length can be great. I think they even in that Florida game forced a bunch of turnovers, but they also allowed quite a few open shots, many that Florida hit, some they didn't. And I think you talked about inside. Inside, I think Florida had almost as many offensive rebounds as Florida State had defensive rebounds in that game. They did pretty well in the glass, and that felt like for the Taylor Bulbowens, for the Malik Ewins, who's coming up from the JUCO level, for guys who are either new or stepping into much bigger roles. Jerry Dang, Alir Maluk. This is what it's going to take to compete at this level type game that you hope they can learn from, because they didn't always hold up especially well, really at both ends of the court inside. And they might be missing that true 7-footer that Ham likes to have, but that this team doesn't have. Malik Ewing being their starting center speaks to that Ham may be missing that traditional 7-3 guy that he likes to have out there and keep in the mix as that presence at both ends of the court.
And basketball is kind of different now in that regard as far as the center position. It's almost like been gotten rid of almost at this point. Zach Edey from Purdue, he's one example. But now you look across college basketball, I don't see like a dominating 7-foot center that much anymore. It's a bunch of
it has changed in a lot of ways.
Athletic guys, so.
No, it has. Ham, I think, still would love to have that guy, but he is kind of, I think it speaks to somewhat him adapting to the times that he doesn't have that guy, for sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Hunter Dickinson is probably one of the better bigs out there. I don't even know if he's over 7 foot or if he's in that 6'10" range. But yes, not many dominant, big men 4 or 5 in the position world. Do we think? I'm a little bit concerned about the free throw shooting, and this is what I do when I watch tight games. I go back and look at, okay, how many free throws were missed, and it would be nice to see the deficit be more narrow if Florida State were making some more of those free throws. But you look at 3-point percentage, 26.9, obviously pretty darn low. Free throw percentage, 67.9. Do you guys have confidence in either of those 2 areas that, hey, they'll settle in, they'll gain the confidence, they'll make these type of shots? Or do you have long-term concerns?
Well, they can make a bunch of free throws in practice. I'm sure they do, but this just, if all they're doing is shooting free throws in practice and not that many in games, they're not going to get any better. So they have to really get a lot of free throw attempts in games. That's the only way they're going to get better, is to shoot in front of a bunch of people, because you're not going to do that in practice. So I'm hopeful that they can get better. Some guys, I think they just are what they are when it comes to the free throw line. Your shooters and your guards are probably going to be your best free throw shooters on the team. And Jerry Dang, I haven't really seen much of him at the free throw line, but they just have to get more attempts, shooting free throws in games for them to get better, I think.
I think when you look at the 3-point line, I think they showed, I mean, last night and a few other times have showed they have a bunch of guys who are capable. I think a lot of that comes down to shot selection. I was talking to someone at the game last night. Jameer Watkins, I mean, the shooting, I get why he wants to put that on display to the NBA, that he has grown in that facet, but jump shooting is not, I guess I would say, the biggest strength of his game. I think he's more a driver and can do things off that. And I think he also, I mean, quite a few of his threes, I know last night and I think early this season, have been well behind the line. It almost feels like he's trying to show NBA range a little bit and not even just college 3-point range. But I think shot selection when it comes to 3-pointers can come into this. And I mean, I think people will say you want to pass up the good shot to try and find a great shot. I think sometimes with this team, settle for the good shot. Maybe the great shot won't present itself. So I think if the good shot presents itself, take it.
Okay, well, again, thanks for watching Seminole Sidelines. We're going to continue after commercial break. If you missed Tuesday's show, a lot of good recruiting discussion. Obviously, the recruiting world is very much up for grabs right now as we're 2 weeks toward signing day with some decommitments, some flips for the positive, some for the negative. But if you're looking for some updates there, check out the Osceola Village, Pat Burnham, Charles Fishbein, Nick Carlisle. They've got some updates there on the Osceola's message board. You can also go back and catch Tuesday's show. We'll again be back Thursday, 3 p.m. for a football-centric show, a little bit of recruiting discussion there too. We're going to go into a quick commercial break here. We'll talk a little bit about the women. Big game coming up Friday night, 7 p.m. against Florida. We hope you stick around. We'll talk to you just in a few minutes here.
Hey Seminole fans, Alumni Hall is your ultimate FSU shopping experience and has moved to a new location off Timberlane Road in Tallahassee. Shop FSU gear from Nike, Champion, New Era, Yeti, and more. Alumni Hall has Seminole gear for the entire family, plus accessories and gifts. Spend $150 and you'll earn $10 off your next purchase with their Hall Pass rewards. Stop by their new location on Timberlane Road near REI or shop anytime online at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Seminole fans shop. Finding an experienced lawyer you can trust is crucial. With over 50 years of combined litigation experience, the attorneys at Mowry Law Firm are dedicated to providing our clients with exceptional legal services, focusing on car and trucking accidents, premises liability, and wrongful death. Call 904-824-7799, MowryLaw.com.
All right, we're back on Seminole Sidelines. We have Kurt Weiler, Justin Hood. We talked a little bit about Florida State men's basketball, 4-1, going into the tournament up in Connecticut Friday and Sunday. Talk a little about women's basketball, and I think in addition to the 4-1 start, I think the bummer is the game that we didn't get to see was at Illinois, and it was one of those streaming broadcasts where really nobody gets to watch unless you're paying the Big Ten Network I believe it's $20 a month or something absurd to watch some of their games. But I think all of us have caught pieces of this Florida State women's basketball team throughout their first, let's say, the 4 games that we were able to get access to. I think the biggest positive that I have so far, guys, is this is not just a team of Tanaya Latson, Michaela Timpson, and Omaria Gordon. It feels like there is a true supporting cast. And I'll let you guys kind of articulate a little bit about some of those players, but Justin, just what have you kind of seen as far as the big picture supporting that big 3?
Carla Villegas, for sure. She's definitely our best shooter on the team I've seen. Just her stroke is almost effortless, and she doesn't really jump that much, so she's not going to use her knees a lot. So she's got a real flick of the wrist, and she made, I think, 4 threes the other night. I think she had a career high, the other night. And she's definitely going to be someone to watch because she could stretch the floor for everybody, So if you got to go out and guard her, they're just going to open up lanes for Tanaya and for Omaria to just kind of do what they do best and just slash and get in the lane. She's definitely going to spread the floor out really, really well. I interviewed Chandler Jackson for the men at the facility for the FSU like a month ago. And when I was waiting, I saw her in the practice court on the shot machine and everything, and she was just bang, 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 just one after the other. And I think she said 300 on there on the meter down below. So she's in the gym constantly, and I can tell it's transferring over to the court. I've covered 2 games this year for the women, and I always make it a chance to look for her because kind of know what you're going to get with Timpson and Gordon and Latson, but she really caught my eye. Carla Villegas, she's only a sophomore, and she's going to get better and better. And Rob mentioned it to Brooke Wyckoff in the press conference, and she said, yeah, she's been working on it a lot this offseason. She's one of the their best shooters, and she's just really more confident than ever. And you can kind of tell with each passing game, she's getting more confident with that shot, and could be a really good thing. To add her shot to the big three, I think will go a long way in really opening up this offense. To really, Brooke can do a lot of. She can do a lot with this too. As long as Carla keeps making shots, she's gonna be able to, really help this team.
Yeah, the Florida State women's basketball team has kind of battled injuries at unfortunate points, the last few years, especially late February, March in those ACC tournament, NCAA tournament windows where they've been, a little bit shorthanded. I think this is a deeper roster that can maybe fewer minutes for a lot of these regular season games for the likes of those big three because you have so much depth. Kurt, just your thoughts, kind of broadly about this women's basketball team, what you've seen from them as they're 4-1 going into the Florida game.
Yeah, I think, with the run and gun, high possession, trying to go offense, and I think they needed more depth. I think last year showed, the course of a season when you're relying on a smaller bunch of players and trying to do that really takes a toll. And I think they did a good job addressing that and kind of have that depth where I think that will, it's paid dividends, I think, right away with you're seeing the scoring numbers they put up early this season. But I think it's also really going to pay dividends over the long haul of the season that, Tanaya's one of the leaders in the nation in scoring, but it's going to take a lot more than Tanaya. Tanaya can't do it alone. I think you've seen that with quite a few players, with the start they're off to.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun Friday night over at the Civic Center. I know Justin's going to be covering the women's game for us at the Osceola, 7 o'clock at Florida State versus Florida. I think that's ACC Network, but if not, check your local listings, and you'll have a couple of days to figure out how you're going to watch all these games because the men will be playing around 5 o'clock. Obviously, neutral site up in Connecticut. I'll be over at the soccer complex. Florida State will be playing its second round game in the NCAA tournament. So I believe that's an ESPN Plus stream. But again, check that out. You'll have to have TVs, iPads, laptops, multiple devices going so you can watch all the good games on Friday as Florida State basketball and soccer both taking part in some important games. Well, again, thanks for watching. We had the recruiting show Tuesday, hoops today on Wednesday, Thursday, full show of football and some recruiting discussion. So check that out Thursday, 3 p.m. on the Osceola. We want to thank you for watching Seminole Sidelines. Again, Justin Hood, thank you for making your debut and participating your hoops knowledge, contributing your hoops knowledge to us here. Kurt Weiler, appreciate you jumping in today too. I'm Bob Ferranti. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. See you Thursday.